It's Easter.
It's Easter.
I can tell you were a cheerleader. I just have to say.
The SHS Mounties. Calling out to all my Strasburg fans.
You can tell that I was not a cheerleader.
Go SHS. Anyway, I digress. We are Pennsylvania natives.
Yes, we are.
Right? Born and raised. You grew up outside of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And I grew up on the other side of the state in the Pocono Mountains, which is the northeast corner. But springtime was a memorable moment and a memorable time for us.
It's really different growing up or being in Southern California now. They don't have spring the way we had spring. Like you see the world in Pennsylvania. It is gloomy from October to April at least.
Forever.
So around Easter, you kind of see the world start coming back to life. You see flowers starting to come up and all the trees that had been bare starting to bud. Yes. I remember we used to go look for robin's eggs because the little birds would hatch and they're these bright blue eggs. But it's a very memorable visual time for me as a young person at Easter.
Same for me. I mean, exact same thing. I remember always getting an Easter dress with my Easter bonnet.
You had a little purse.
Had a little purse with your little gloves. And so it's a very memorable time. My mom always made these wonderful peanut butter chocolate eggs. So...
And we wanted to say, if you have a picture of yourself at an Easter past or present, we would love to see it. So tag us in Instagram or Facebook because
ours will be up there.
We'll share two.
We'll share two. We'll share a photo of us when we were younger on our social media.
That's right. And we want to see yours too.
We want to see yours. So tag us and welcome to the collective table. I'm Dana.
I'm Chelsea.
And we're excited to have you here.
At this table.
So I clearly am so excited it's Easter, but let me just take myself down a couple of notches because we just want to recap a little bit.
I understand your excitement though. I mean, I'm not a cheerleader, but we've been...
cheerleader for Easter.
We've been in 6 weeks of Lent, right? We've been in 6 weeks of preparing and fasting and... So we've been waiting for this day. And so it's the day of hope. It's a day to be excited. But I just want to kind of bring people up to speed on where we have been.
Yes.
We've been in 6 weeks of Lent, which really is a time where we are trying to reflect, be honest and open and vulnerable about our lives in the world and where God might have a role. We've been through Holy Week, which started with Palm Sunday, this big celebration where people were calling Jesus King and having a parade in his honor, all the way through Holy Week to where Jesus is arrested, betrayed, denied, and eventually murdered on the cross.
Right.
We've been through Saturday now at this point, which is the pause of Jesus' body is off the cross and in the tomb, and his friends, his disciples are left to wonder, now what? Right. In this liminal space. So we've been through all that. That's a lot in 6 weeks.
It's a lot to go through in 6 weeks. When you really think about it, it really is. It's a journey. It's a journey with a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling.
So Sunday really is Easter. I mean, it's really just a day of celebration, a day that we're reminded we are Easter people. We are people of hope, that death does not have the final word. No. And it's a good day.
Excellent. Yeah, and I agree. So we are Easter people. So our theme for this week, or for this particular episode is, and you said it very well, it is hope. And you have a wonderful quote that will just kind of, I think, kick us off.
Yeah, because while we are people of hope, it's a really it's not a tangible thing. It's something hard to hold on to, especially in our world.
Especially.
And so often I feel like, Christians are not... we don't have permission to escape the world. We don't have permission to sit back and say, oh, God's got it. Like, I'm just going to sit back and wait for my seat in heaven. We're called to participate in the world, and that can be really hard. And one of my favorite theologians, Ronald Rolheiser, has this quote I've held on to forever. And it says, a Christian, while sharing fully in the tears of this world, is ultimately distinguished by their laughter. We participate in the tears and in the laughter.
And that's the theme.
Yeah.
And it even is the theme going to starting with Good Friday, where we're weeping,
Yeah.
and now we're joyful.
And it's holding those two things at the same time. Many of the times, we turn on the news, we see what's going on. Some of the problems just feel so big, right? Racism, environmental issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. Pick a headline,
Right.
And then we move into our own individual pains. You
Right.
have
Yes.
divorce and loss of job and death and friendships that have gone. So there's a lot of things to be grieving about, and I think the world. I constantly feel that the world is kind of trying to make
Weigh
me
in on
feel
it, yeah.
hopeless, and for me to feel helpless.
I agree. And one of the things that you also said is that the overwhelming hopelessness that the world provides needs to be counterbalanced by the resurrection.
If we just sat in the world, we would be depressed. Probably depressed so much that we wouldn't even know how to move forward.
Paralyzed almost, yeah.
So we remember Easter. We remember that death does not have the final word. In the small deaths that we have throughout our lives as well, that there is a coming through, that love wins in the end.
Yeah. And I know sometimes it goes back to, it is hard for people to say, well, where does that show up for me in my life? Or like, how do I think about that? And so I think we're going to give people some ways to think about that. But is there anything else that we want to, before we get into examples, is there anything else you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm just reminded that the resurrection reminds me that it's never too late.
Oh.
And watching Jesus on the cross, really trying to step into that story of what that was like, not just for Jesus, but you think of for Peter and for some of the other characters in the story, that Peter is also one of Jesus' disciples who denies him. It's never too late for Peter either.
No, and we've been doing this for 2,000 years since Christ's birth and Christ's death and resurrection, and yet it's never too late. We're still here. We're still doing it. We're still having, like you said, many deaths or large, extravagant pains in our lives or in the world, and yet we still come out with hope on the other side.
Right. We have many deaths and we have many resurrections.
That's right. We have many deaths and many resurrections. And it also reminds me that, Sundays are the day of resurrection all the time. So while we have this beautiful celebration on Easter Day, but every Sunday, especially in the early Christian church, for the first Christians, the first Jewish Christians, Sunday was a resurrection day for them every week.
Yeah, they had many Easters.
Yeah. We need that.
Yeah, we have to, because hope is such an elusive thing at times, a weekly reminder at least, I think, is enough to maybe fill us back up so we can go back into the world and participate in bringing God's kingdom to earth.
Yeah, and I did remind me, I want to mention is that I think if people can go back to when COVID first started, if those of you had ever watched some Good News with John Krasinski, SGN, like every week he put out a hope-filled message. It was 15, 30 minutes long, but I remember looking forward to that because that's what we needed, that once a week little message just to remind us like, okay, yeah, it's crappy right now, but there's hope.
Yeah. And I never actually watched it, but I remember you telling me about it with enough joy and excitement that I was hopeful just from hearing you talk about it. Yeah. But it reminded me of the Velcro Teflon example of, bad thoughts, things that we look around in the world stick to us like Velcro. Like if you ever think of if your spouse, you have 5 interactions and one is negative, what do you go to bed thinking about? The negative one, right? So bad kind of thoughts are kind of like Velcro. They stick to us. And good experiences or good thoughts, hope-filled thoughts kind of slide right off us like Teflon. And there's a great video by Rick Hansen, who is a neuroscientist, does meditation. And he has come up with a model with the acronym HEAL, to kind of how do we really hold on to those moments of hope, of joy, of love, so that we can actually start changing our brain chemistry, which I just think is wild. But the first thing is to have a good experience. So we need to activate it in some way. So, watching the show where John Krasinski, has different people come on and tell us different hope-filled stories of celebrations, you have an experience. You enrich it. So those things that you're watching, you let it for 15 seconds, they say, hold on to that feeling. Right. absorb it and let it sink down. So be conscious that you're letting it kind of seep into your being. And then how do you link that positive experience to a negative one to kind of start overtaking the negative?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the experience that probably resonates more with me as it relates to that is my Build a Miracle experience, where this is an organization that's been around for 30 plus years in Southern California, in San Diego. They go down and they build homes in the eastern section of Tijuana in an impoverished area. They've built over 400 homes, and more importantly, have put up a very large community center where they're really trying to bring everybody together. It's a collective effort to provide after-school programming, adult education, all kinds of wonderful things. And I've been fortunate enough to participate and volunteer for them. And going down there and seeing the before and after of what these people go through, it literally is feeling kind of the suffering and pain and the helplessness, and then feeling complete joy in your entire body. Like, you surprise them with this 400 square foot home, and it is just tears of joy, hugging. Everybody's cheering. It's just a beautiful experience. And so
you're literally laughing and crying.
You're literally laughing and crying, and you're having a good experience. So you're activating it. It's enriched because it's lasting much longer than 15 seconds. Your body is absorbing it. You're seeing everybody around you. And then you're linking it to the positive and the negative of, okay, I felt hopeless. I felt hopeless. Like, I felt helpless. Like, how do I help people? And yet here I'm doing something. And am I solving all these problems? No, because that's not my job, right? I'm one human in God's massive creation. That's God's work.
Yeah.
But I'm actively engaging in it.
Right. Yeah. So often we feel like the weight of the world is literally on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, it's our job to save the world. And I always want to remind myself that it's not Chelsea's job to save the world.
Right.
But it is my job to participate in bringing about, hope and peace and love as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus. And so while God holds it, I participate alongside God in the work that God is already doing.
I think you said we are the witness we are the witness to resurrection. We live it out in our lives all the time.
Right. I didn't raise Jesus from the dead, but
No.
I can witness to it.
You can witness to it.
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely right. And so I think that is how we bring hope and remind ourselves of hope, even when we're dealing with just the crap around us.
Yeah. I when I was in high school, I was very much into church, and I used to draw crosses on all my papers. I don't know if it was like a meditation thing. Anyway, I got it back one time from my history teacher, who was also our track coach, actually. And he wrote on it, "Don't forget about Sunday." And I think so often we focus on Friday. We focus on, the horrors of death and violence and denial and all of those kind of things. And we forget about Sunday. We forget we're hopeful people. We are Easter
people. Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting that, the church year is set up for us to celebrate this holy day every year, so we can fully be reminded of the full joy of Jesus' resurrection. But then, like you said, each week is a mini Sunday that we get to be reminded. And I think it's the fuel we need to be people of God in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, I think that's what Easter is for us. And again, I think these are things you have to intentionally want to do to engage in your life. I know the Rick Hansen video, we'll post it on our website so people can watch it, because it is a technique that you could choose to engage with.
Absolutely. And it's scientifically backed. It's wild to think that can really change your brain chemistry, but in such a tangible practice.
All right. Anything else that we've left out?
I'm sure, right? Like, I'm sure.
Of course we have, people.
Yeah.
We can't do all of this in 20 minutes.
But hopefully it is the reminder of hope that we so desperately need in our world and in our lives and in our relationships. And so something to hold on to.
And just before we go, one of the easiest things to think about when it comes to hope is just community.
Yeah.
And being together and being and here we are, hopefully we're seeing, people are getting vaccinations. They're getting to spend a little bit more time together. Please continue to be responsible.
Yes.
Wear your mask, social distance where you need. But it's so great to be in community.
Right. Yeah. We remind ourselves of hope in one another. Yeah. We are the hope.
So I just have to add that in there.
But we want to remind people that Mystic Mercy has a new music video and that Erica has a new meditation. We'll put the link to Rick Hansen's video.
Yes.
We have a great book suggestion, Richard Rohr, who you've heard us talk about a million times. This is a great one. But check out the full collection. It will be out on Friday. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah.